I'm James Lansing. I studied abroad in Florence last semester, and I'm going to tell you why you should study abroad too.
Hi, I'm Nick Carter. I'm a business major here at Marist. I studied abroad last semester, so that's my spring semester of junior year. Ever since I've been back, I've been missing it a lot.
Hi, I'm Jack Harvey. I'm a senior. I'm a history major here at Marist College, and last semester I spent my spring in Florence, Italy.
Hi, my name is Sophia Haas. I went abroad spring of 2023. I'm a senior and I'm a digital media major and a fine arts major.
Hi, I'm Marist Abroad. I'm a communications major with a concentration in PR, and I studied abroad last fall in Florence.
My name is Julian. I'm a senior. I do communications, and I have a concentration in public relations and a minor in graphic design.
Marist is a beautiful campus. It can be hard to leave for an entire semester, but let me tell you, it's super worth it. Did you know that about 50% of Marist students study abroad at some point in their college career? I decided in my spring semester, my junior year, I would study abroad in the beautiful city of Florence. My first impression of Florence was just surreal. Walking through the streets, it didn't feel real.
My first experience in Florence was fantastic. I had an amazing first couple weeks wandering around the city. I remember the first day when I was there, I was blown away by the architecture there. Especially as a history major, it's obvious that the city is well preserved since those times and that they do a really good job at preserving the art and focusing in on the things that make Florence such a good city.
I was overwhelmed with just how excited I was and how magical the city was and how much life there was. A lot of young people, a lot of tourists. There was just so much to see and do.
Some would argue that the best part of studying abroad in Florence is that it's so easy to travel around on the weekends. But to be honest, if I spent my entire semester in Florence, I would still have an amazing time.
Just enjoy it. I mean, once you get there, it seems like time flies by really, really quickly.
I strongly recommend staying in Florence. I think my biggest regret was not spending enough time in the city itself.
If you ask someone what their favorite part of Florence was, most might say food probably was my favorite too. There's this cafe really close to where I lived, and they had the best cappuccinos. I would always get a waffle with Nutella and a cappuccino to start my day, and I wouldn't have it any other way. For lunch, a classic choice is the panini. I would always go to this one place that had the best bread.
I think gelato, hands down, was my favorite.
My favorite food that I had in Italy, and everyone knows this if you ask all my friends, they say that I ate peachy every day. And peachy is like this spaghetti noodle, and it's kind of fat, but anywhere I went, I looked at the menu, they had other options, peachy. I'm like the peachy man, I don't know.
My favorite food, easily by far, the quattro formaggi pizza, 4 cheeses. They don't have that here. It's really upsetting to me. I am super upset that I can't eat that anymore. I think about that food every single day.
They do American food better than Americans do American food. It's crazy.
James and I decided we were gonna climb the Duomo, and it was really cool. Lots of steps, kind of a little claustrophobic, and I was huffing and puffing up the stairs. But you get to climb up to the first dome and walk around because there's frescoes in the inside of it.
The Duomo is really tall, so if you don't want to climb 500 stairs and you're claustrophobic, I wouldn't climb the Duomo, but if you don't care about that stuff, do it, because it was the best view in all of Florence. If you're a photographer and you're on the fence about studying abroad, just do it, because I'm a photographer and I got some of the best photos I think I'll ever get in my life while abroad, because I just got to see so many amazing things. Florence itself, you could walk around the entire day taking photos, and it's just beautiful.
first place that I traveled to outside of Florence was Venice. I went there with my friends. We had an amazing time. I loved Venice. I loved every second of it. We didn't even go during a very nice time of year. It was very cold and very foggy, but it was still beautiful and grand and fantastic. Coming to Venice, everybody wanted to do a gondola ride, and I don't blame them. I recommend that you do the same if you go to Venice. It's awesome, it's very cool. You are floating down the river with your friends. You get to see the other gondolas, and the gondola people know each other. It was cold, but it was still extremely worth it. Even if you go during the dead of winter, I think you'll still have a great time. We also went on a trip to the island of Burano. The island of Burano is known for its glass making, and we got to see several demonstrations of glass makers making really complicated and ornate glass right in front of us. We went during the weekend known as Carnival, a major festival in Italy, and specifically in Venice. Crazy costumes, there was people partying. It was just a fantastic place to do all these things. I mean, it's gorgeous. If you ever go to Italy, I highly recommend you go to Venice.
My favorite travel destination was probably Rome. James and I took a fast train to get there, so it was about like an hour-and-a-half trip from Florence to Rome. We did 2 days of basically non-stop activities. First day was the Vatican, and second day was the Colosseum and the Roman Forum. The Vatican is its own country, and basically the main part is the museum, the Vatican Museum, and we spent about 4 hours in the museum looking at everything. Then the day after we did the Colosseum, we did like a tour, and we went up and walked around. Behind the Colosseum is the Roman Forum, which is basically the ruins of like Rome, and they also have like some gardens and stuff.
So my favorite place that we went outside of Florence was most likely Madrid, Spain. I went with my friend James. I'd been planning on going there from basically the get-go. I'd been talking to my friend who lives in Madrid, and she said that she would help show us around the city, and she was extremely helpful in that regard, and it was a fantastic trip. A great part of our trip in Madrid was the Royal Palace of Madrid, which was recommended by our friend. It is gigantic. It has like something around 3,000 separate rooms, all with artwork and the most impressive feats of architecture that I saw in Spain as a whole. I think it was also extremely valuable in our trip to have that local guide. We got to see things that we never would have normally checked out or experienced. For instance, it's a rooftop cafe. The sunset was coming down, you get a whole view of the city, and we never would have checked that out if it weren't for my friend. The day after, we went to Toledo, almost nearly as amazing, if not more.
For spring break, I went on the 5-country trip over the span of 10 days.
Went to 5 different cities, all of which were in different countries.
So we started in Berlin, and then we went to Amsterdam, Bruges, Paris, and Barcelona. So it's 5 cities in 10 days.
5 different countries, and it was insane. It was so awesome. First, we went to Berlin, which is in Germany, the capital. It was a wonderful experience. We got to experience the local cuisines. I personally had a great time doing tours of the area. There was a lot to do with the Cold War and sort of the politics of the history of Berlin, which is extremely interesting to me and very fascinating.
My favorite city was Amsterdam. We went on a canal ride through the waterways that go through Amsterdam. You're like constantly walking over bridges to get to other streets. We kind of got to pick what we wanted to do when we did there, and the thing that I voted for and that I was like, we're going, is to the Van Gogh Museum. A very famous museum that like has a lot of Van Gogh pieces. So like when you're learning art history about pieces, it's like, oh, where's that one? It's at the Van Gogh Museum.
My favorite place I went to on this spring break trip was Paris. I loved the city, I loved the culture, and I loved the art that I saw there. So in Paris, when we first got there, we took a tour, a Halloween-themed tour, and we ended up at Notre Dame, which is my most favorite cathedral ever, but we only took photos outside of it because it's still closed down. We also saw the Eiffel Tower at night, and it sparkled, and it was so magical. It was amazing. But I think we spent most of our time that day in the Louvre. You could spend hours in the Louvre. It was so cool. So in the Louvre, of course, we saw the Mona Lisa. It was probably one of the most underwhelming things I've ever seen as a non-artist. What was really amazing about it was the crowd and how many people really wanted to see this itty-bitty picture. I think that's why the paintings lasted so long throughout history. But my personal favorite piece was Psyche and Eros. It's this beautiful statue of the god Eros kissing Psyche and bringing her back to life.
So my favorite place that I traveled to so far would be Barcelona. The city is like amazing, and the culture, the food, like I really love Barcelona and even would consider moving there.
My favorite country that I visited was definitely Spain, and in particular Barcelona.
Park Wall is some place that I visited when I was younger. I don't really remember a lot, so it was a really pivotal moment to like realize that I'm there again. So one of my favorite places that I went to was La Sagrada Familia, one of the best places that we visited. Just like the stained glass windows, the top of the ceiling, like it was so intricate, and like figuring out like, or learning about like how it wasn't like completed and how it won't be completed, like I really found that like enjoyable.
My highlight definitely was going to see the Camp Nou, where FC Barcelona play. So when we first got to Camp Nou, we opted to go for the whole stadium tour, which included the museum too. So the museum was another really, really cool part of this experience. There There were a lot of the trophies that they won from the domestic league, the Spanish Liga BBVA. There would be trophies from their Cup Challenge, which goes throughout all the Spanish leagues, and they've won plenty of those. And then most notably the Champions League, which is the biggest league in Europe where all European teams come together and battle each other. So after the museum, we all went down to the actual field or pitch, and this part of the tour really just feelings of wow, like I'm really here. Just because I'm such a fan of the sport and everything about it was insane. I couldn't believe I was standing on that actual field where Barcelona played.
Some advice for someone thinking about studying abroad, I would say, is plan your trips in advance. If you want to go somewhere on the weekend, start thinking about what places those could be and start planning out your entire semester.
My biggest advice is don't stress as much as I did, and I'm sure many others did before.
To definitely do what you want to do in Florence as well as going outside of Italy.
The time differences, and also understanding how to move around on your own and like cook, or like if you're gonna travel, like figuring out those things on your own is definitely like a big part of that.
I became more of a worldly person. I got to discover cultures. I got to live in a foreign culture for 4 months.
Being in Florence felt like being home.